The morning buzz at Atlanta International Airport was just like any other, full of life and noise. People darting through terminals, families juggling suitcases and strollers, sleepy-eyed travelers dragging their feet after long red-eye flights, and business folks locked into their own little zones, earbuds in, marching with purpose. It was just another typical airport scene. Nothing seemed out of place until it wasn't. Suddenly, a sharp bark sliced through the hum of activity. Not just any bark. No, this one was loud, commanding, and filled with intensity, the kind that doesn't just echo, it stops you. Like a siren in the dead of night, it shot through Terminal 4 and made every head turn. The bark had that kind of power, the kind that makes you freeze, even if just for a second, because deep down you know something is wrong. But before we get into the heart of this story, can we ask you for a quick favor? If you're here, you're part of the Heroes for Animals family. So go ahead, hit that like button, share this video to spread some awareness and love, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more real stories like this one coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. Now, back to the story. The source of that earth-shaking bark? A Belgian Malinois named Ranger. And trust me, this wasn't just any dog. This was a trained K9, a decorated veteran in his own right. Ranger tugged hard on the leash, eyes locked, body tense. His handler, Officer Daniel Carter, immediately stopped in his tracks. He didn't need a second opinion. He knew. Ranger rarely, if ever, barked like that for nothing. This wasn't just about instincts. It was about experience. Ranger had seen more than most humans had. Over 30 successful ops. He didn't miss. "What is it, boy?" Carter asked in a low voice, following Ranger's fixed gaze.
There.
Standing near gate 24.
A man.
He looked sharp, dressed in a clean, perfectly tailored suit. Thin-rimmed glasses. Leather briefcase. Not a single strand of hair out of place. His smile? Flawless. But beside him stood a boy, small, maybe 5 or 6. Light brown hair. Huge, unsure eyes. A cartoon t-shirt that looked slightly wrinkled. And in his tiny hands a worn-out teddy bear, gripped like a life raft in the middle of an ocean. And still, Ranger would not stop barking. Officer Carter moved in. "Excuse me, sir. Could you stop for a moment?" The man turned, polite, calm. "Is something wrong, officer?" His voice was smooth, perfect English, but there was a faint trace of a European accent. "I'm Thomas Whitman, a U.S. citizen," he continued confidently. "I'm just connecting through Atlanta en route to Brussels. This is my adopted son." He handed over passports and documents before Carter even asked, as if he'd rehearsed the move a dozen times. Everything looked legit. U.S. and EU visas?
Check.
Custody papers stamped by a court in Texas?
Check.
The boy was listed as Ethan Whitman. But Carter's gut and Ranger's unshakable stance said something else entirely. The child didn't talk.
Didn't smile.
Didn't make eye contact. When a female officer bent down gently to say hello, he didn't even blink. He didn't look scared, he looked numb. "He's shy," the man said, smoothly cutting in. "He's been through a lot of trauma. I'd appreciate it if we didn't pressure him." Carter's jaw clenched. Everything on paper was fine. But documents lie. Dogs don't. Ranger wasn't trained to sniff out only bombs or drugs. He was trained to smell fear, stress, human emotion. And right now, the tension practically radiated off the boy. "For protocol," Carter said evenly, "I'm going to need you both to come with us for a quick, private check." The man nodded. No hesitation. No argument. He even smiled again. They walked down a quiet corridor toward a secondary inspection room. But just as they passed a mirrored wall, Carter saw something that made his stomach twist. The man hadn't looked at the child. Not once. No glances of reassurance. No fatherly concern. Nothing. It was like the boy was just baggage. An item to be moved from one place to another. Back in the control room, the deeper checks were underway: facial recognition, biometric scans, and cross-references with European databases. All hands were on deck. If there was a mismatch, the system would scream it out. Meanwhile, outside the interview room, Ranger sat planted, still as a statue. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. And then a beep. High-pitched.
Sharp.
Final. Invalid passport. The boy's real name? Eli Morrow. Nationality?
French.
Missing? 73 days. Reported by his mother in Marseille. Carter's chest tightened. He closed the file gently, holding it like it was fragile. Ranger had been right. Again.
Dead right.
Inside the room, Thomas Whitman sat perfectly still.
Calm.
Emotionless. He didn't protest. Didn't raise his voice. Just glanced at his watch like it was a minor delay in his travel plans.
But the boy?
Still silent. Still frozen in that chair. A social worker named Emily Hayes was called in. She crouched down beside Eli and offered him a bottle of water. Then a paper. Some crayons. Anything to reach him. Eli slowly picked a crayon.
Drew a dog.
Then an airplane. Then a person. Large eyes. Thick eyebrows. Emily asked gently, "Is that you?" He nodded, just a tiny nod. And this man, he froze, gripped the crayon tight, and let it drop to the floor. Then a whisper.
So faint it was barely a sound. No.
That single word struck like a thunderclap. Carter and Emily exchanged a glance. Emily stood and walked over to the boy. Ranger, still watching, slowly patted over and rested his snout gently on Eli's leg. And that's when the boy smiled. For the first time. "Your name is Eli, isn't it?" Emily asked. He nodded. "Do you know where your mommy is?" He looked down again. His tiny voice quivered. "In Marseille, she told me if I ever got lost, to say I was looking for her." And there it was. The truth. The papers were fake. The story was a lie. The adoption? Non-existent. This man hadn't saved Eli. He'd stolen him.
We still don't know why.
But we know enough. Whitman's flight. Cancelled. His hands?
Cuffed.
His face? Still calm, but now the mask had cracked. A vein in his temple throbbed as he was led away. In a quiet room nearby, Eli finally fell asleep, curled up in Emily's arms. Ranger lay at his feet, protective as ever. A team of child psychologists was en route. Interpol had launched a full-scale alert to locate Eli's real mother. Outside, Officer Carter leaned against the wall, letting out a slow breath. He looked down at Ranger. "You knew," he whispered. "You saw it before any of us." Ranger wagged his tail, just once. And in that tiny movement was all the truth anyone needed.